Welcome to D.I.Y. Automotive School with my friend Pete and Minnie, the body shop girl. It's everything you need to know about cars and more.
Alright, I said I was going to go and get it back together, but you know what? This fucking rocker panel situation really irritated the shit out of me. So what I've done is I went ahead and started on the repair job of leveling this out. Now, the aftermarket one sits approximately, I would say, a ½ inch lower than the factory one. So what I had to do here is I went ahead and cut this area out right here. If you look, you can see where I spliced it. I went ahead and just took my cutting wheel, sliced it down, and then I took my pry bar, and we're going to use my hammer for an example. I took my pry bar and then I pried it up just like that right there. Do you see how I'm doing that? And then now it's going to sit level like we want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and remove our quarter panel off of the car. I'll go ahead and cut me out a piece of the old rocker panel sitting over there. Fit it in here, right here. I'll weld that up nice and clean. Once that's done, then we'll go ahead and remount. I'll go ahead and put another reinforcer. So I'm going to take a piece of strap steel and I'll spot weld that in here as well to fill this gap in right here. Basically like I did right here. You can see how good that's going to work. That's going to be really nice. And then once I get that done, I think we have solved our rocker panel problem, and it should look pretty fucking nice. So I thought I'd go ahead and run that by you before I went ahead and did it off camera, because this is a video set of how-to detailed situation. And let me get all that welded up and fabricated, and we'll be back and I'll show you what it looks like as we slide it back on the car. And once again, this is the reason why you don't weld anything. You see, if I would have welded that in place, we would have been fucked. So that's another reason why you don't weld anything. You just want to screw it all together, and that way you can remove it very easy like I'm doing right here. And now we can go ahead and remove our rocker panel that we built, just like that. I'll go ahead and add some steel right here. I'll weld it up, clean it up, and then we have solved our problem with this being level. And that's the situation you have with aftermarket fuck-off parts. Now I'm going to say goodbye, and I will probably be back with you tomorrow as we work on our 1968 Mustang GT Rustang Frankenstein. Can we even call it that anymore? Now that we've replaced 60% of all the rust, can we call it that still? I don't know. But let me go ahead and get this fixed up. Like I said earlier, it's getting late. I want to go home, but I want to get this done first, and then I'm heading out. We'll see you later. Alright, how y'all doing out there? This is Pete. Now, we're just going to recap from what we've already done on the car. That was yesterday, and today's today. It's a brand new fucking day. You should always start your day out fresh. Whatever happened yesterday, if it was bad, if it was something that you don't want to remember in life, you know, who gives a fuck? Yesterday was yesterday, tomorrow's tomorrow, today's today. All we're going to do is concentrate on today, because tomorrow's not here yet, and yesterday was the past. Do Do you see what I'm trying to get at here? One day at a time. If you take everything one day at a time, you're going to accomplish stuff that you never dreamed of before in your life. So what we're talking about right now is yesterday, I'm going back in time here because I got to recap. Yesterday, we went ahead and installed our rocker panel. Now, we didn't just install the rocker panel, but I showed you when you get one of these cheesy ass bullshit aftermarket made in Taiwan rocker panels, how to fix it where everything's going to line up. I showed you how to do that. Let's take a closer look at that, and I'm going to go ahead and explain one more time because I like to repeat myself. And if you don't like me repeating myself, then you're watching the wrong fucking channel, pal. You are not watching the right person. If you think that you're Mr. Know-It-All and that you don't need anybody repeating anything to you at all, then get the fuck out and don't come back. So yesterday, when I was in the middle of doing this, my battery on my camera was ready to die, so I basically told you, hey, I got to do this, that, and the other, and this is what I'm going to do. So this is what I did to make this all work. If you remember right, this wasn't level. The factory was higher, and the aftermarket is lower. I cut it out, and then I took my pry bar and pried it up. Now, if I already showed this to you, that's great. But right now, I am repeating myself for everybody that doesn't know or hasn't seen what the hell's going on. So I went ahead and raised this up to match this height. And then what I did, I took a piece of the other piece of rocker that we didn't use. If you look right there, you can see where I notched it out and I cut it out. And then I slid it inside here to use as a support, you might say, and a backing for us to weld this together. I also went ahead and extended it out, and you can see where I drilled some more holes for spot welds. I'm going to go ahead and spot weld that just like I did this piece, but we don't want to spot weld this yet because this piece inside here is mounted to this, and right now all we're doing is screwing our car together, you might say. We're screwing everything together to hold it together so we can get everything lined up properly, and then we'll start welding. So our rocker panel is now installed. And then I went ahead and I took this side panel because I'm going to go ahead and install the side panel, and I'm going to go ahead and put the hinge panel in as well, the hinge post. But I noticed that the side panel is lining up perfect. You can see right here how this is lining up and everything looks great. And then as we come around to the inside lip of our panel where our floor is, I noticed that this is a little bit tighter right here, but I think that's going to be okay like that. We do have our floor already screwed to the other floor. I could loosen those screws off to relieve some pressure if I wanted to, but I believe that it's all going to line up. And the reason I believe that is because if we come up here, you can see where my my poker tool, you might call it, line-up tool, it lines up perfect with all the holes, and then everything else lines up over here. One more thing I want to show you on these, if anybody out there is doing this, I want you to pay close attention right here as we're walking down the lip of this side panel. I want you to pay close attention to it and look at the angle of that side panel as it gets down to the rocker panel here. Do you see how it's got a curve that comes in? Do you see that? I don't know if that's a visible situation on the video here, but that panel, once it hits the floor, it actually curves in like this and then hits our rocker panel. Now, for me to visually make sure of all the parts that I'm installing on this, I always refer to the other side of the vehicle. If the other side is all factory original, and I know that that's how it was put on the factory, then I am going to eyeball every little single inspection of the other side as I'm putting it together. And so if you follow this line coming down, you can see that this has a slight curve to it as well, just like our right-hand side that's original. See, that's all original. So I know right there by looking at that, I know I'm on the right track and everything is fitting good. This is going to be a real major disaster right here. This is going to be a nightmare of a job due to the fact of two things. One is that we're using used parts, and I got to separate all the parts that I'm using from all the parts I'm not using. And two, we have to go ahead and splice that into our windshield post to use it properly. And then three, we got to line that up and then hang our door on here to make sure that everything lines up that way before we start welding. So I still got a little bit of prep work to do to our side panel over here. I'm going to go ahead and repeat my process on drilling all the spot weld holes, because once I get this all together and I know that it's precise, I'm not going to take it apart and re-drill holes. I want to do that now, get it out of the fucking way so it's all ready to weld together and be done with. So let me get that done, and when we come back, we're going to start working on our fucking, where's it at? Where is our fucking hinge post? There it is right there. I forgot, I went ahead and epoxy primed it for the guy to make sure that it's going to be a rust-free situation. We had to have that sandblasted. That was a used piece, but you see that it was sandblasted. It's epoxy primed. We're going to go ahead and use this section right here. See here? This would be our back panel, the panel that we are installing now. And then this goes on top. And you can see why the rocker panel has to go in first, because this actually sits on the rocker panel itself. So when we come back, we'll be working on our hinge post. See you then.